Here are 5 NBA contenders that should blow up their teams to start a rebuild in the 2025 NBA offseason. Hello everyone and welcome to the fourth quarter. Today we are going over 5 NBA teams with title hopes that aren't going to get there and should blow up their teams for a better chance in the future. With the amount of parity in the NBA, it's important for these teams to go into rebuilds instead of staying in the kind of good tier forever. Before we get started, I just want to say if you like this kind of content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps out a lot and it can help us make more of this type of content in the future. The first team we have is the Milwaukee Bucks, who won the 2021 NBA championship and made another all-in move going for Damian Lillard. This was a league-changing move, everyone thought at the time, but it hasn't worked out that way for the Bucks. Unfortunately, they bought again at this deadline, trading Chris Middleton to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. That move also turned out to be a bad fit. This team will always be good as long as they have Giannis, but with the pieces they've surrounded him with, the roster construction isn't a good fit, and they have very minimal financial flexibility. What they do have, though, is some of the best trade chips in the league. Giannis, if he were to be traded, would get an absolutely astronomical package, which alone could set up the Bucks' future. Dame Lillard wouldn't get nearly as much as Giannis, but selling him would still get a pretty huge return. They can also sell Kyle Kuzma and really just set the team up for the future with the immense amount of picks and young talent they can get with those pieces to do a very quick turnaround to start competing again. The Bucks, very good team, but I don't think they can beat the Celtics. I don't think they can beat the Knicks, the Pacers, even a team like the Pistons who are up and coming. I just think the Bucks have a bad fit, and I don't think they're going to win a championship with the current core they have. They did with the very similar core, but that core is kind of gone with Middleton and Holiday, gone with Dame and Kuzma. I just don't see the fit, and I think the Bucks should really blow it up this offseason. The second team I would say should sell and rebuild is the Phoenix Suns. The Suns, who the Bucks played in the 2021 Finals, made many win-now moves, getting Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, but none of those moves truly worked out for the team. Bradley Beal with his contract is really handicapping this team from putting the proper pieces in place this team needs, and with the limited flexibility, it'll be hard to turn this core into a championship team. Beal also has a no-trade clause, which they tried to move him at this deadline, but he said no. Kevin Durant is one of the most likely trade candidates this summer. He can garner a lot of picks for them, and I think they should look to rebuild. If they can somehow get off the Beal contract, that will really help their future plans. But if not, selling pieces like Durant and possibly even Booker, who I believe they should build around, but you know, they are most likely going to keep him. But there's a chance they trade him and just go fully rebuild. But that can certainly set them up for the future. I think the Suns should really blow it up. Obviously, they didn't make the playoffs last season, and I think just having 3 scorers, no defense around them, and just they're not staying healthy. The fit, it just isn't there. The big 3 played, I think, less than half the season together, and I think the Suns really need to blow it up. Definitely trading Durant. Beal, if you could somehow get off that contract, that would be absolutely amazing for them. But you'd probably have to work with him and see who he would go to. And even if it requires you eating, salary, whatever it is, I think it's completely worth it for them to just get off that contract. The third team I would look to sell is the Sacramento Kings. The Kings have been a very fringe team for a lot of years and did a soft retooling with selling Fox for Levine, but that team is not really set to do anything but scrape by the playoffs every year with no sense of direction. Really, with not much young talent and no top picks to get more, I would look for them to start selling off their pieces to begin a true rebuild in a stacked Western Conference. I think this is also just a happenstance, the wrong circumstance being in the West for Sacramento. The East, I think they could be a very, solid team, consistent playoff team, but with the West being so deep as it is, I just don't think it's worth it for Sacramento to keep this core together. This core is not a championship core. You could be in the pretty good team tier forever. I think it's one of the worst places to be, is just be a fringe playoff team that gets bounced in the first round every year. That's old, because if you're at least horrible and if you have control of your picks, which is obviously a very important distinction, you at least get top prospects and you could rebuild and get build around them. But the Kings aren't in that situation. If you draft well in the mid-first round, that's great, and you could really do a great job. But I think getting those top picks, being able to get the first pick at talent, is something that is a great way to rebuild. And I think the Sacramento Kings can get a few picks for guys like DeRozan, Levine. I think some teams would definitely be interested in them. They're still very good. The Kings still have a lot of good players. I think they should keep Sabonis, but even if they trade him, I wouldn't be too shocked or upset at them for that. But yeah, I just think the Kings should really be rebuilding at this point in their timeline. And I just like to take a little moment to ask a question in the comments for everybody. What team do you think should sell at the deadline that I haven't mentioned to this point, and why? Who do you think they should sell off, and what reasons do you have for that? The fourth team I would look to sell is the Atlanta Hawks. This team has been stagnant forever, and now that they got lucky and got Sachet to build around, I would look for them to sell Trae Young and their other pieces to start a full rebound around that lottery win that's really propelled the Hawks' future, because they were in the no man's land I just mentioned with the Kings, but they barely scraped by not making the playoffs, and then eventually got the first overall pick, which has happened 2 years in a row, by the way, which is just kind of crazy. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you just pray for lottery luck and then you rebuild your team like the Mavs and the Hawks both did. The Hawks kind of gotten in a weak draft, and also Saw refusing to work out with them, making them not be able to pick him. Kind of was a double sword, but the Hawks still would take Sachet over, whatever they would have gotten at the pick that they were projected to get. I think they could really get a lot of great pieces for Trae Young. Trae Young can definitely, get a huge haul. He's very young. He's a very good player still. I just don't think the Hawks, he really should be in their future plans as much as he's done for the city. I just think their ceiling is kind of capped with him. I think Trae Young needs to be a secondary piece, not the main star of a team. And I think if you make him the secondary piece, say a team like the Spurs, that could be something that's really interesting. And the Spurs have young pieces and picks that the Hawks could really try to get a trade for Trae Young. But I think it's just a good time for them to shift focus. I think they peaked at the conference finals, and I don't think they're going to get back there. So I think it's a good time for them to retool. The fifth and final team I think should rebuild is a team that we saw in the finals multiple times recently, and that is the Miami Heat. They've already kind of started this when they traded Jimmy Butler last season after all the drama that ensued with him. Whether that obviously wasn't the original plan, but with Jimmy Butler sitting out, they just traded him and got as much value as they could. And now they should look to kind of keep selling. Bam Adebayo is a great player, and I think if they traded him, I think they could get a lot for him. He's very good. He's going to keep them from being a bad team forever, but there's really no point in being like a kind of good team. With Bam Adebayo, Kevin Love, Tyler Hero, I think they're just kind of a directionless team right now, but they do have valuable pieces, and if they're able to sell them and get some value out of them, that's absolutely huge. The current course title window is obviously over with Jimmy gone. I'd very much expect this team to start selling their pieces off, and Pat Riley can get a ton back for these guys, and they can start building a new identity through the draft, and with the new young pieces they could get. I think they're a they have a team with got a lot of guys who have value, and they can make the most out of players. They can make some fringe, young player signings. And I think they're a very good place for players to revitalize their career. So I think if you trade those guys, try to get a few fringe guys in free agency and through those trades as well as draft picks. I think they're very good at developing talent, and I think that's something they could really build a new identity with and become a very good team in a few years. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about these teams selling. If you agree or disagree, if you have any other teams that you sell in this offseason. And yeah, just leave a like, comment, subscribe. It really helps out, and it helps us know what kind of content people like. If you guys like stuff like this, we get subscribers, likes on it, then we'll make more similar to this, and obviously always improving it. So yeah, thank you very much for watching. Have a good one.